Good Wednesday morning, friends, or afternoon, or evening, or whenever you might be happening to join with me for this midweek pause. For those I don't know, I'm Reverend Jennifer Finley, the Momentum and Discipleship Pastor at First UMC here in Kirksville, Missouri. And this is our weekly time to pause together and reflect on our faith. We've been doing this now for quite a while, and each week we ask ourselves a similar question. Where have we seen God at work? Where have we sensed God moving in our lives and in the lives of those around us, in the world around us? These next few weeks, we're going to be exploring practices of faith that might not seem like normal spiritual practices, but we're going to be exploring ways in which the ordinary things we do in our lives might become ways in which God moves in us and speaks to us. Last week, I shared from my home, and I shared about my penchant for moving furniture and how sometimes that shifts my perspective just enough to see something from a different angle, and that God meets me in that shift of perspective. And this week, I'm thinking about something similar. I'm thinking about a practice I have done fairly frequently, actually, of sitting on the floor. Now, I know that that does not sound like a spiritual practice. But if you were to pop into our church office on a day when no one else is around, you might find me sitting on the floor of my office with things all around me. Now, that is perhaps not the most professional space to be, but sometimes that helps me think. Sometimes God meets me there when I have a slightly different perspective on things, when I'm looking up as opposed to looking out from my desk. You can see that I'm sitting on the floor here in our sanctuary, and from this perspective, as opposed to sitting in the pew or standing back there, I can look up and I can see our beautiful rose window that often we don't get to see. Now, I know that sitting on the floor is mostly a privilege of those of us who are young-ish and certainly able-bodied. It is not something everyone can do. But I'm wondering, what are the ordinary practices that you have that help shift your perspective? As Christians, one of those that has been part of our faith tradition for a long time is kneeling. Kneeling changes our perspective. It shifts us into a different posture. And again, it's not something everyone can do. But it is indeed something that many of us find shifts us just enough to have a new sense of God working in us and through us and around us. Those of you who are attending in-person worship here in our sanctuary have the opportunity to kneel on Sunday mornings after receiving communion, and I know many of you do and find special meaning in that. But for those of you who worship with us online, I thought today would be a good day to remind you that this space, this kneeling rail, as you can see, is open to all. And so when our office is open, when our church building is open, you are more than welcome to come into this space, to kneel at the altar rail, to have that shift of perspective, or sit in the pew. I would invite you, if you aren't physically able to kneel, to walk up to the chancel area behind me. Because while this is a beautiful stained glass window, one of my favorites, our rose window, where most of the light that you see is actually coming in today, our rose window is beautiful, and you really only see it if you're facing outwards. So I invite you into that practice, perhaps as a way to shift your own perspective a little bit. The space is always open if our building is open. And if you find yourself kneeling with God and need a hand getting up, we will happily come help you get up from that position. Again, I'm wondering, It might not be sitting on the floor, it might not be kneeling, but I'm wondering, what are the physical posture changes that help you sense God's movement? For some, myself included, yoga is one way we physically do that on a weekly basis. I know there are others that find that in physical exercise or in walking, but it might be as simple as sitting with hands open or hands down. Might be simple as walking around the house, looking at things from a different perspective. So that's my challenge for myself this week, my invitation to you. Maybe it's kneeling, maybe it's sitting on the floor looking up, maybe it's something else entirely, but whatever it is, I invite you to shift your perspective just a little bit to allow God into that midst. And as I said, you are always welcome in this space, at this kneeling rail, in these pews, on a Sunday morning or anytime during the week when the office is open. And if you would like a companion in that shifting of perspective, shoot us a message. We'd love to be on that journey with you. And yes, if you happen to pop in at a time when no one else is around, you indeed might find me on my office floor finding new perspectives. Friends, know that God is with us in each and every way in which we attempt to see things in new ways. As we do that, we do it together, so go knowing that you do not go alone. Go in peace, friends. Amen.